exclusively on ESPN Plus. UFC 313, Saturday. Reigning light heavyweight champion Alex Pereira defends his title against number one contender Magomed Ankalaev, and an explosive lightweight bout between Justin Gaethje and Rafael Pazzi. UFC 313, Saturday at 10 p.m. Eastern. Buy it on ESPNplus.com/PPV.
Welcome back to I Want That Too, the podcast where Disney merch meets Disney history. I'm entertainment writer Jim Hill, and as always, I'm joined by the lovely Lauren Hersey. How are you tonight, Lauren?
I am fantastic. How are you, Jim?
I am enjoying my seltzer water. I've reached that age where this is what I consider an adult beverage. So it's sad but true.
Listen, we call it bubbly-a in my household because we are fancy, bougie. So okay. Enjoy. I got a Coke Zero going on, which is my new latest favorite discovery ever. It actually tastes like Coke.
Is it really?
Yeah,
okay.
I haven't drank soda in 5 years. And then I tasted Coke Zero and I was like, ooh, and you get a little caffeine hit. A+ on my end.
That reminds me that Bobcat Goldthwait, a comedian I love, and now a film director, by the way, used to do this wonderful bit in his stand-up routine where he'd stand on stage drinking a tab, and he would just at one point turn the can to the side and read the ingredients, and it's like, wow, this has the exact same ingredients as a battery.
I don't want to know what's in Coke Zero. Don't tell me.
There we go. That was probably wise decision on your part. So
yeah.
Okay.
But anyway, so we've got a ton to cover on today's show. We're going to be talking new merch, some exclusive collections, and one of my personal favorite Disney springtime traditions. Plus, we are picking up where we left off last week with part 2 of exiting through the gift shop. It turns out the story behind why Disney perfected the strategy is even more interesting than you may think. And let's be honest, we've all been there. We've all been tempted by post-ride merch at least once, twice, or, every time I leave a ride. And I don't know if I ever shared this with you before, Jim, but I think I have a signature scent. Everywhere I go, I get compliments. And it is because I had to exit through the gift shop on the Frozen ride and got a whiff of Layla in Norway, and now I won't wear anything else. I have the perfume, the spray, or the body lotion. Now they even came out with deodorant.
I did not know that. How very cool. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
So looking forward, you left us on a cliffhanger there. But before we get to all that, Jim, I have to bring up the sweet email that you got from one of our listeners, Patrice. You want to tell our listeners about your exchange?
Well, what's kind of intriguing about this is Friday, this note showed up where, and basically Patrice is a listener who lives in Arlington, Massachusetts, and it heard me referring to myself as old or elderly, and thought, I need to buck up his spirits. And it sent me this lovely note. It's like, you are not old. You're one of the younger baby boomers. And it's like, well, for example, you're younger than Pinocchio. I mean, that came out in 1940, and it was like I sent her a note back to the effect of, thank you for the lovely note, but please don't misunderstand, because I call myself an old fart because I feel like I'm there are so many people my age who are reluctant to talk about their actual age. And I turned 65 last year. We'll turn 66 next month. Look, I know I'm lucky. Okay. I lucked into a job where it's actually a perk to be my age when, the irony is when you're somebody like myself who talks about entertainment history and you start talking about something that happened back in the 50s, the 60s, the 70s, whatever. When people find out I'm as old as I am, they're like, well, he's probably right. He was probably there. Yeah. Excuse me, Mr. Lincoln, how was the play? But at the same time, I want to be clear here. I'm also lucky in that I get to work with really smart, fun people like Len and Drew and Eric and, of course, the lovely Lauren, not to mention Brian Gong and Jim Schul. And they bring all sorts of fun stuff to the table as well. So, no, I'm perfectly happy being the age I am. And again, love having this gig as an old fart. So,
Jim, I have to say, though, that I think you, blazed the trail for the podcasters and the YouTubers that we see today, because I will tell you, my little boy, Miles, who is 7, he watches, TPM vids and, a handful of other, child-friendly, everybody-friendly content, and they're always referencing you and your stories. So, you're contributing to, the next generation too.
The irony there is, and that I owe this entire gig to my ex-wife, the lovely Michelle Valladolid, who I want to say this was 97, 98. I was an old print journalist, working on things that used to be printed on things made out of trees. And Michelle was working with Al Lutz at that point on the Disneyland Information Guide. And they were like, okay, I think we need more content. We need other contributors. And she was like, well, let me reach out to my ex-husband. Maybe he'll write a story for us. And so, and as it turns out, Michael Eisner's his memoir. In fact, by the way, co-written by Tony Schwartz, who was the same guy who wrote Work with Donald Trump on the Art of the Deal. So Work in Progress, again, that's the name of Eisner's memoir, had come out that week. And I'm like, I could write a review of this. And, I knocked out 1,000 words and sent it to her. And again, I'm a print guy. So it's like, all right, so I send it to you and 2 weeks, it shows up in a magazine or a newspaper, that sort of thing. And like an hour later, I get this email, it's up. And it's like, what do you mean it's up? And it's like, no, the thing you wrote, it's up. And I go to the webpage and it's like, oh, this is interesting. Sadly, Lauren, that was my first taste of crack. That's how it started. And here we are, some 2,000 or 3,000 stories later, and yeah, I need to get a life.
No, you don't. You need to keep publishing those stories because they're what we all look forward to.
All right. Enough. We got a show to do here. And speaking of which, we have a lovely sponsor on this show. This episode that you're listening to right now, folks, of I Want That is brought to you by our friends at Be Our Guest Vacation. And whether you're planning your next Disney trip or a cruise or a theme park adventure, they handle all the details for free. So head on over to beourguestvacations.com and let them take care of the planning so you can focus on the fun. All right, so enough talking about the old fart. What do we got for the news this week?
Okay, I feel like we've got to talk about Disney adults for a second. We were just talking about, some of our favorite Disney adults are Disney content creators. But I was reading this article just a couple days ago on MSN, and the article was talking about, Disney now marketing and advertising a more focused effort to Disney adults. And they made a Facebook post from the Disney store that was promoting their new Winnie the Pooh plush line. And you could tell that they were definitely encouraging adults to relive their childhood memories. The caption on it says, "The magical memories feeling." So really tapping into that. And it worked perfectly, because if you look at their 57 comments, a lot of them are, adults that still are collecting plush. I mean, I know you have plush, we have plush. So it kind of makes sense. But I mean, I feel like from a consumer product perspective, we've been seeing a lot more in the last even maybe 5 years of merch targeted just to adults, like the spirit jerseys and lounge fly bags and these park exclusives, and they just are screaming adult, and not tailored to the kids. Are you noticing that as well?
Yeah, and look, our good friend Mr. Testa was recently part of a fairly large piece over at the Wall Street Journal that talked about the rising cost of vacationing at Walt Disney World, and how families, especially families that are just starting out with younger kids, the prices keep going up and up and up, and that they're getting out of reach for a number of families. Whereas, if we're being completely honest about the Disney adults who sometimes are traveling there without children, and in fact, a good portion of them, is that correct?
Yeah, I read a stat that said at any given day that 40 to 50% of park goers, and I think this was maybe 24, were child-free adults.
But face it, those folks are the ones who are like, money is no object, that I am here because it makes me happy. And the problem with doing that, with Disney chasing the top 10%, the top 5%, the top 1%, is, in fact, I shared this bit of phraseology with Mr. Testa, who then passed it along to the Wall Street Journal. You are eating your seed corn. It's kind of the same thing that professional sports is experiencing right now. A lot of us formed relationships with professional, whether it's a football team or a basketball team or a baseball team, because our dad took us to a game and we had this lovely bonding experience, and that was something that we wanted to continue. And now professional sports, when you think about how expensive it is to take your family to a professional sports game, between the tickets themselves, the parking, food, the merch, it's gone from let's do that again next month, or let's do that again in 3 months, to, well, let's wait till next year. And in the case of, I think it's Len who pointed out, it's like what it costs now to go to Walt Disney World and experience the teeny tiny post-stamp size version of Italy. You can go to real Italy.
100%.
And that's the thing. I think for a lot of parents, a lot of people, they're weighing that value. And, but anyway, this is a Disney company that is looking at that financial dynamic and, are like, okay, let's lean into this. Let's get them being nostalgic and hopefully buying more. But I think, as you point out in your show notes here, Lauren, face it, as I mentioned at the top of the show, I'm 65, soon to be 66. So my time on this planet is coming to a close at some point. Not next week, but you get the idea. And so what's going to happen when the Disney adults, like myself, start to disappear? What are you going to do when you haven't necessarily grown that next generation of people who are there? They love the films, they watch them on Disney Plus, but have they gone to the parks? Have they experienced the resorts, or can they not afford to?
Right, and that was the question that I had for you, is like, what happens when the Disney adults go away? Because if you look at birth rates also being down, I've said it before on this show, I think Disney is, I feel like, gotten a little, they're very into raising prices at the parks, we'll say that much. And as they're pricing people out, I feel like it's short-sighted.
Oh, no, you are.
I'm drinking this Coke Zero because, my dad drank Coke all like growing up. Like that's when you get associated with these things.
You do.
And kids
You
like
do.
mine have grown up in the theme parks. They'll continue that on. And I wonder what's next. I wonder if we will see more ride shows, attractions. I think we might even be seeing it with Villains Land. Like, I think that is historically going to skew to an older demographic.
You're not wrong. And by the way, just a brief side note here. It's worth noting that Universal is coming at this from an entirely different point of view. I mean, for example, we've talked on the show about you and Eric when you made your first visit to Universal. You guys stayed at Endless Summer. Is that correct?
No, we stayed at Cabana Bay. The last time we were there, we stayed at Dockside at Endless Summer. Yeah.
Okay. That hotel out on I Drive, I literally had a Universal insider tell me that the corporation has decided to run at a loss for 7 years, with the idea that we will deliberately keep this hotel, rooms at this hotel, available at a price point that is significantly lower than what people will pay up the street to stay at a Disney value, with the idea that people will then go home and tell their friends and family about this wonderful hotel that we stayed at Universal that was brand new and so much.
And they're suites.
And
they're
sweet.
Made for a family.
That's it exactly. But that's the thing. Universal is planting its seed corn, where Disney is just sort of like, I mean, I think it's in the next week we're going to see Disney roll out the surge pricing, where your ticket to enter a Disney theme park, the price point is determined kind of like the same way a plane ticket's price point is determined. Oh, are you trying to come down here during the holiday season?
Think again.
Think again.
It was an interesting article, all based on one Facebook post, but it really got me thinking, and I went down, the dark hole and like trying to figure this out logistically. But it all started with that Tigger plushie, and so with plushies, I feel like I have to mention, just because we've talked about so much of the merge from China and Japan making its way to the U.S. Theme parks. And there was an article on, might have been the Parks blog, that I was looking at about the new plushies that were coming. And I think I had told you about the Sakura line, which is kind of based on cherry blossoms. And this is the first, they're pastel plushies. And Jim, I sent you a picture of these plushies. Does it look like Baymax is a girl?
Yeah, but at the same time, it's maybe a Baymax who's sitting under a cherry blossom tree and a couple of things have fallen on him.
Yes,
So,
I think, but if you glance real quick, it looks like Baymax is wearing a bow.
This is true.
I hope that maybe it would inspire like a romantic partner for Baymaxina. Who knows? But anyways, so this was one of those lines. We've got Pooh and Eeyore and Piglet going hard on Winnie the Pooh and a really cute Stitch. And this is not the only line that are coming from our friends in Japan and China. There are more to come. Next up is one I think that you and Miss Nancy are going to love.
Yeah, I'm looking at these. These are Lucifer and Aristocat plushes from the Disney Store Japan, and I think we're going to need to get a bigger Catmas tree. Wow, those look great.
Yeah, and they're so cute. Like, I know they have a whole, like, cute culture, but even Lucifer, like, he looks like he's given the side eye, like, almost in a joke. Like, I don't know. He doesn't look like he's going to claw your eyes out. Very cute. I think they did a nice job with that. And then we've got the pastel pets that are coming. And the weirdest one of them all, I don't know, Jim, if you could look at this picture I sent you, but they are the floral bouquet plush. Are you seeing this from China?
I am. I'm a little concerned about Lotso.
I know. It looks like he was decapitated on an ice cream cone.
Yeah. Also, he's kind of a villain. So, in fact, what's interesting is that you've included an image with the fur balls, the pastel plushes from Japan, where and they show somebody happily sleeping on top of a Lotso, and it's like, no, you don't fall asleep with that character. He's going to pull a knife on you later.
Yes, he is.
Donald, Dumbo, and Marie from the Aristocats. You can sleep with confidence with those, but keep one eye open around Lotso.
Yeah, so check those out. The floral bouquets are going to be coming maybe in time for spring. And just one other quick news story I feel like I wanted to mention. But the Egg-stravaganzas are back at Disneyland and at Disney World this year. I've never experienced the one at Disneyland, but we hit up this activity every year at during Flower and Garden, and we'll be in the parks in Florida the week of Easter, so we'll make sure to let you know how that goes. But to just kind of give you the general idea, it's really fun if you have a trip planned in the spring. They give you a scavenger hunt map. I think it's at like Portugal at Epcot in the World Showcase. And you have to go and you find like themed eggs, and they do these throughout like different festivals, but this one is eggs because of the holiday. It's only $9.99 per map. It gives, your family something to enjoy as you're going around the World Showcase. And then you turn in your finished map and get a little collectible. So I'll be anxious to see what those look like this year. But that's running April and May. So if you're or April and May, March and April.
Got it.
And I think Easter is on the 20th of April this year. So it'll run through then at least. I'd say check it out. It's a good low-cost way to keep everybody, engaged with the World Showcase.
Interesting. And you say you and the family have done this previously. What was the collectible when you turned in your map?
I feel like the last couple times we've done them, and I could be getting Flower and Garden and Food and Wine mixed up, but I feel like we're always getting plates. Like we've got figment plates, we've got mini plates with flower, like we've got all types of plates. So I feel like $9.99 and you get a plate, and you can use your annual pass or DVC discount. So it's not even like $10. Like, so I don't know. To me, that feels like a win.
Okay. Well, all right. Anxious to see what you bring home from this Easter egg hunt.
Yeah. And I mean, this year it says that there's a collectible egg. So I'll keep you posted when we get back from our trip.
Okay. Cool.
All right. So after the break, Jim is going to resume the second part of exiting through a gift shop at Disney theme parks. Excited for that. So stay with us.
You're the perfect blend of elegance and style, and your ride should be no different. The 2024 Hyundai Sonata Hybrid meets all your needs, from business to brunch and everywhere in between. With head-turning details like a sleek front end, plus stylish interior, and an available 12.3-inch digital instrument cluster and seamless tech integration. Okay, Hyundai. Visit HyundaiUSA.com to learn more about the new 2024 Hyundai Sonata Hybrid.
Make your next move with American Express Business Platinum. You'll get 5 times membership rewards points on flights and prepaid hotels booked on AmexTravel.com. Plus, enjoy access to the American Express Global Lounge Collection. And with the welcome offer of 150,000 points, your business can soar to all new heights. Terms apply. Learn more at americanexpress.com/business-platinum. Amex Business Platinum. Built for business by American Express.
Every cup of Nespresso coffee is an invitation to transform your morning routine into a ritual you can treasure each and every day. Using the Virtuo Pup, a simple touch of the button freshly brews bold aromas and a rich, velvety crema layer for delicious cafe-quality coffee at home. Whether you enjoy your coffee hot or over ice, every sip, every morning is unforgettable. Nothing tastes like Nespresso coffee. Visit Nespresso.com or our app to explore our full range of easy-to-use machines and coffees not found anywhere else.
All right, and we're back, folks. And we're going to continue with the Exiting Through a Gift Shop feature story that we started on last week's show. So just to get you in the right headspace, it's now November of 1991, and the Walt Disney Company and Mattel have just signed a decades-long new deal, which will allow Mattel to develop new toys based on upcoming Disney releases like Aladdin and The Lion King, which talk about your great timing. But not only that, but Mattel is now going to step into the Disney theme parks. It will do so as the sponsor of the version of It's a Small World that will be opening with Disneyland Paris when that $3 billion theme park and resort officially kicks open its doors in April of 1992. But then, Lauren, almost as an afterthought, that the Disney company is like, tell you what, you're the sponsor of Disneyland Paris's version of It's a Small World. We're gonna, as an extra added bonus, you're gonna be the sponsor of the two stateside versions of It's a Small World, the one at the Magic Kingdom in Florida and the one that's in Anaheim, California. And not only that, bonus on top of your bonus, right outside the exit of the version of It's a Small World, which has been up and running at Disneyland since May of 1966, the park is now going to build a post-show shop. It's a freestanding structure, which appropriately enough is called It's a Small World Toy Shop, and it's a shop with two P's and an E at the end. And it's going to sell exclusive Mattel Disney-related products, which, again, Mattel loves. But here's the thing, Lauren. Mattel's corporate headquarters is in El Segundo, California, which is just 35 miles away from Disneyland Park in Anaheim. Which means when It's a Small World Toy Shop with two P's and an E, when it opens at that theme park on December 18th, 1992, the executives of Mattel are happy to hop in the car and drive over to Disneyland for the day and take part in the opening ceremony for this Fantasyland store. But what Mattel executives are not happy about is they stand there and watch the number of Disneyland visitors who, after they ride the Anaheim version of A Small World, just walk right by this Fantasyland store without ever entering the It's a Small World toy shop with a two P's and an A.
It's there still, right? Like, we've been there.
It's still there.
Okay. All
right, but what gets interesting about this whole thing is to facilitate foot traffic into the Small World toy shop. The Imagineers had actually reversed the way that guests were boarding this Fantasyland attraction. They had been going one way for 26 years. Again, this opened May of 66. And what the Imagineers did was swap the entrance and the exit. So now, as you were exiting this attraction, you would walk right by this toy shop. All right. The problem is, Lauren, that this part of Fantasyland is so built up, more to the point that just up the hill is where Mickey's Toonstown, at that point, construction was being completed. In fact, it would open to the public just a few weeks later, January 24th, 1993. So, being completely honest here, the Imagineers did not have a lot of choices when it came to where they could place the It's a Small World toy shoppy, which is why they built it at the left of the exit of this Fantasyland attraction. And as we mentioned in the earlier, installment of this feature series, 90% of the theme park going public is right-handed, which meant by placing the It's a Small World toy shop on the left by the exit, the Imagineers were effectively putting a store full of Mattel product in most guests' blind spot. Which again did not make the executives who'd driven over for the day since El Segundo, did not make them happy. So they immediately asked for, well, look, you got to make changes to the physical setup here of the It's a Small World toy shop. And the Imagineers immediately pushed back because it's like, well, no, guys, this building is ADA compliant. We deliberately set it up so it would be far easier for guests with disabilities, those in wheelchairs, or those making use of ECVs to get in and out of the shop. So we're not changing this. So long story short, Lauren, things got ugly quickly. But upside is Mattel now shares with Disney all sorts of information about how important it is to get a guest in front of a store display as quickly as possible, especially when it involves something that people have just experienced. And as I understand it, Lauren, Mattel originally came into possession of this information back in the late 1960s when the toy maker acquired Ringling Brothers Barnum and Bailey Circus. And by the way, it was that purchase that made Mattel flirt with the idea of building Circus World, the theme park just down the street from Disney World in the 1970s. Anyway, here's the interesting part, and you work in advertising, so I want you to validate if you've ever heard anything like this. Mattel reportedly told Disney officials that they have 57 seconds to get customers in front of a merch display that features items that are tied to a specific ride, show, and attraction. That if they wait to get that same guest in front of this display till 58 or even 59 seconds, now we're not talking even a full minute, that person's sales resistance then starts to kick in, and it makes it that less likely that you'll make a sale. Have you ever heard anything like that in your time?
Oh my gosh, yes, I've told you. Even with like YouTube Shorts now, you literally have 32 seconds to get someone's attention before they swipe up, or like a billboard, you only have 3 seconds.
Oh.
So this makes perfect sense.
Wow. Okay. Well, the Imagineers had never heard this before, evidently. But they began incorporating this specific piece of information to design a future ride, shows, and attractions that they're now planning for the Disney theme parks. Now, what makes this challenging is around the same time, well, this is when image capture starts to get introduced at the Disney theme parks. And it's this invention, which is what makes it possible for you to bring home a shot of you and your family experiencing something like Countdown to Extinction or Expedition Everest. When it debuted in the 1990s at the Disney parks, it was a brand new revenue stream, Laura.
Are you talking about like when you're going down like what was formerly Splash Mountain and you get like the...
That's an excellent observation on your part. And by the way, in a moment, we will talk about the specific Splash Mountain, where image capture first started at the Disney parks. But first, this
episode is brought to you by State Farm. From your morning podcast to your afternoon playlist, State Farm knows you personalize your entire day, and that's why State Farm helps you personalize your insurance with the State Farm Personal Price Plan. It offers coverage options that help protect what you care about most at an affordable price just for you. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. Prices vary by state. Options selected by customer. Availability and eligibility may vary.
And we're back. Okay, so if you're going to hazard a guess, Lauren, which Splash Mountain do you think image capture started at?
Disney World? No?
Wait, actually, it was Disneyland, and more to the point, well, you got to remember that opens in July of '89, and as the story goes, Michael Eisner, who was Disney's CEO at the time, is in the park, the Anaheim Park, a few months after that theme park's version of Splash Mountain first opens, and Michael notices that there are guests standing on the bridge in front of the Briar Patch with their cameras just up, waiting. They're standing there for like an hour or more, hoping that they can then capture a photo of friends and family as they and their log zoom down Chickapin Hill. And Michael, being Michael, his thought is like, wow, what would people pay if we could take that photo for them? Now, mind you, it takes a couple of years of R&D before Michael's idea can then become a reality. But by January 31st, 1992, and by the way, Disney World and Tokyo Disneyland's versions of Splash Mountain won't open for another 9 months yet. I want to say September of 92. So you're riding Splash Mountain in Anaheim, and again, January of 1992, and your log you finished the ride proper, but suddenly there's an animatronic figure you've never seen before, Professor Barnaby Owl. And this A figure, again, positioned the ride just before your log goes back into the load-unload area. And Professor Barnaby Owl, which, by the way, name is a play on Barn Owl, lets guests know that, your image has been captured, just as your log went plunging down Chickapin Hill. And for the meager sum of $7 to $10, the owl would be happy to print out digitally your photograph and give it to you as a souvenir of your time on Splash Mountain. And look, right from the get-go, Lauren, image capture was hugely popular guests and quickly spreads to other attractions at other Disney parks around the globe. The only problem, though, with this new revenue stream is that guests are quick to hurry to Professor Barnaby Owl's photographic art studio to get their digital photo. In fact, that means those very same customers are blowing by the Crocodile Mercantile and Critter Country Plush, which were places that Disneyland visitors had previously paid top dollar for their Splash Mountain t-shirt and their baseball hat. So now it's kind of a robbing Peter to pay Paul situation where you've got two factions of consumer products on the park side of Disney, with, again, the relatively new image capture group going head-to-head with the park's already well-established retail operation, and they're now competing for, well, not just the guest attention, but also their wallets. This got especially interesting in July of 1994, Lauren. This was when Twilight Zone Tower of Terror first opened at Disney's Hollywood Studios. And this was the very first attraction to have a purpose-built image capture display. I mean, on all the other attractions, they kind of shoehorned it in quickly. And they also had, so there was a display of the image capture and then a sales point. But beyond that, further on down the hall, was a post-show gift shop that had been deliberately built by this thrill ride's exit. And look, I have to tell you, Lauren, that the folks who ran Tower Hotel Gifts were pissed. And I apologize for using that adult language, folks, but there is literally no other way to describe how the cast members who worked inside of this post-show gift shop at Tower of Terror felt. And that was largely because, well, first, guests would get off the service elevator, and the very first thing they'd encounter was the image capture display in the sales point, long before they got to Tower Hotel Gifts. So Tower of Terror's official post-show gift shop, which, by the way, I was there. I saw this stuff, Lauren. They developed a full retail program for. I mean, back in the day, you could get an official Hollywood Tower hotel bathrobe, monogram towels, hotel stationery, even a brass room key. The works. There was a whole program, which nobody bought because they only saw it well outside of that 57-second mark.
Yes.
They were like, this is nice. Yeah. But the Imagineers, again, even knowing that 90% of the population was right-handed, still built the Tower Hotel Gifts on the left side of the attraction corridor. By the way, I was told this wasn't their fault. It was one of those things where they had already set up that very elaborate lobby space.
Oh, yes.
And let's be honest, the works that power the elevator that drop and move and go across the Twilight Zone space in the middle building. A very elaborate mechanism, and they needed all the space on the right to power that. So the gift shop had to go on the left. But then, to add insult to injury, because they wanted to look like a real gift shop in a real hotel in Hollywood from the late 1930s, they built a wall in the corridor of the exit corridor that deliberately separated guests
oh my gosh.
from the merch. So
that's a no-no.
And this is the thing, a lot of visitors who were at Disney's Hollywood Studio paid a lot to get in, so they're anxious to get out in the park and get on additional rides. So these people would zoom right by, not realizing that behind that wall were bathrobes and and towels that were monogrammed and Anyway, obviously the Imagineers got an earful after the Hollywood Studios version of Tower opened. And when they went to build the West Coast version of Tower of Terror, which, by the way, opened at DCA May 5th, 2004, Lauren, they made sure that every single guest, after they exited that service elevator, was inside the Tower Hotel gift shop in under 57 seconds. And more to the point, they made sure that the merch and the image capture were all in the very same space.
But I didn't see any nice bathrobes or monogrammed
No,
towels.
that ship had sailed. But and also, more to the point, when Rock and Roller Coaster starring Aerosmith first opened at Disney's Hollywood Studios in July of 1999, just 5 years later, the Imagineers made a supreme effort to make sure that this tour ride did not repeat the mistakes of the original East Coast version of Tower, which is why guests riding Rock and Roller Coaster, in fact, what's so funny, you mentioned that 32 second thing a moment ago about YouTube videos. When you ride the Rock and Roller Coaster and your coaster gets into the offload area, from stepping out of that car, putting your foot on the ground, and entering the post-show gift shop, which, by the way, is called Rock Around the Shop, that you're there in front of a rack in under 30 seconds.
Yeah, you come down that ramp.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's one straight shot from the coaster to the merch rack, which, by the way, is okay to do when you have, say, 24 guests aboard a coaster, or 21 guests getting out of a service elevator over at Tower of Terror, or a boatload of 20 people getting off Small World, every couple of minutes. But on the other hand, if you have a show like Mickey's PhilharMagic, where every 12 minutes, 454 people are suddenly dumped out of the Fantasyland concert hall, you cannot have that many people suddenly enter a tight retail space. That would violate fire laws. That would be irresponsible. So that's why, for example, that 3D Movies post-show gift shop, the Fantasy Fair store, is located to the right of PhilharMagic's exit. And by the way, the exact same rule of thumb applies to the post-show gift shop for Muppet Vision 3D, which didn't open at Hollywood Studios to May of 1991, because in that case, it's 584 people, which, again, every 15 minutes, you can't be sending that many people into a tight retail space, because, again, fire laws, and again, it's irresponsible, which is why the Muppet Vision merch shop was actually in a separate building, right across from the exit to the theater, the Stage One company store, and again, separate building. And as we bring this two-part feature to a close, I want to share something interesting about, we all know that Muppet Studios will be closing later this summer, so that this corner of Disney's Hollywood Studios can be then transformed in Monstropolis. And by the way, Lauren, that, from what I'm hearing, that project has been fast-tracked. Disney wants to have this new land up and running no later than the summer of 2027. So
that explains the fuzzy Crocs.
There we go. There we go. Now, when Muppet Studios closes in June of this year, look for the Stage 1 Company store to be torn down entirely. All right, I mean, that building is gone. The idea is that this will then give guests a straight path, more importantly, a clear view of the Monsters, Inc. door coaster building. And by the way, just in case you're wondering, yes, as soon as you get off of your hanging door coaster, you will be directed to that Thrill Rides gift shop with Disney's goal, again, to be getting you in front of that merch rack in under 57 seconds. And just one final note before we button things up here. This exit through the gift shop thing is no longer reserved for just ride shows and attractions at the Disney theme parks. It's now also being featured at meet and greets. I mean, have you ever been in the summer house at Epcot where you can get your photo taken with Anna and Elsa?
Heck yes.
Okay. All right. Well, since that first opened in June of 2016, and by the way, spoiler alert, when they're at their busiest, there are 3 different sets of Anna's and Elsa's back there, greeting guests. Depending on which door you get, you're getting Anna and Elsa 1, Anna and Elsa 2, or Anna and Elsa 3. Anyway, once you finish getting your photo taken, you are then directed to exit through the Wandering Reindeer, which is supposed to be where Kristoff stores his sleigh when he's not out, gathering ice. But this is actually the meet and greets post-show gift shop. And just worth noting that Chester and Hester's Dinosaur Treasures, the gift shop at Disney's Animal Kingdom, which closed down last month so that this side of the park can then be reimagined as an Encanto-themed area. That's now slated, Lauren, to become something like Epcot's Royal Summer House, in that this building will be reconfigured into a space where first you get to meet with members of the Madrigal family, and after you get your picture taken with Mirabelle, her sister Louisa, and their cousin Dolores, you'll then be directed into a room just beyond this photo op, which will be filled floor to ceiling with Encanto merchandise. So anyway, you heard it here first, folks. So get ready to do some shopping after you get your picture taken with the Madrigal family when Encanto Land opens at Disney's Animal Kingdom sometime in the summer of 2027. And yes, you will be asked to exit through the gift shop.
Heck yeah. I mean, sounds like summer of 27 is going to be a big year for
it has to be.
Disney World.
It has to be. Disney is looking over its shoulder at what's being built up the street, and the notion is that Villains Land isn't necessarily going to come online as fast as the company wanted it to. We will see work begin very, very shortly on the Cars Road Rally. But again, that'll be months of site prep, Lauren, before we begin to see steel go up. So, yes, 2027 is what the company is shooting for, because to be honest, they're looking at 2026 right now, and it's like, we got Zootopia, Zoo Better Together. Woohoo! Well, that's it. Is that going to put you on a plane to Florida?
Heck no.
There we go.
But it might be maybe that free water park day.
Oh, well,
to compete with Epcot.
There you go.
With Epic.
There we go. Okay.
Don't pay attention to Mario. Go to Blizzard Beach. Anyways, okay, well, that was fantastic. Thank you so much, Jim. And on that note, I think it's time we close up shop for today.
Okay. And folks, if you want to stay up to date about everything that's happening on the Jim Hill Media Podcast, make sure that you're following us on Facebook, Instagram, and X. We post all the latest updates and news from our show, so you won't miss a thing. And if you're looking for even more insider Disney content, check out our Patreon community. There's a lot of stuff happening over there, like Disney Unpacked, the video series that Len Testa and I do with veteran Imagineer Jim Schul.
Yes, and while you're at it, make sure you're leaving us a review. It really helps support the show, and it means a whole lot to us.
That it does. And if you've got questions or suggestions for future episodes of I Want That Too, we, of course, would love to hear from you. And you can reach out to us on social media or email us. Well, I'm at jim@jimhillmedia.com, and Lauren can be found at lauren@laurenhersey.com.
That's it. All right. That's it for today's episode of I Want That Too. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.